Hi, welcome to Life in a Bottle, Season 2, Episode 35. Took notes. Let me apologize first. This might go a little long. This is a bit of a long story. I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. But we're here right now, today, on this lovely afternoon, to talk about this rosé. This is the Chateau Laulerie Pour l'Amour de 2019 Rosé. That was a challenge for me to say, and the ironic thing is, spoiler alert, I was the one that came up with the name. Okay, so I'm Mitch. Where are we? Today we're in France. Well, no, we're in Ridgefield, but the wine's from France, more specifically southwestern France. More specifically Bergerac. So you're like, so where's that? So I did a little calculation here. So if you're in the little village of Saint-Emilion, which would be in Bordeaux, and you got in your car and you drove 37 minutes east, you would be at this particular vineyard site. Okay? So it's like driving from where I am now, Richfield, to Norwalk, I guess. But Bordeaux, Bergerac. Richfield, Norwalk, I guess. Same thing. So, what are we talking about? We're talking about 70% Cabernet, 30% Merlot. Here's another crazy thing too, okay? So, all the grapes for this wine were made with one specific task, and that was to make rosé. As you all know or don't know, there are different ways of making rosé. Sometimes you make rosé out of kind of a byproduct of making a bigger, denser, heavier red, right? You bleed off some of that juice, right? So there's more skin contact to the juice. It becomes a deeper, richer, more flavorful red wine. But when you're growing, you always have that in the back of your head, like, hey, this is really just going to be a red wine, and we might make some rosé off of it, type of thing. And don't get me wrong, some of those rosés are stellar, they're spectacular. But in my mindset, when you're growing something for a particular thing, like you're growing grapes just to make rosé out of, you're looking at those grapes and how they grow and when to harvest a little differently. So, this particular wine, Chateau Laulerie, right, that's owned by the Dubard family. Now they are in their second generation, so it's Marine and Gregory, I believe, are the second generation owners of this. Not a huge, I think they have a total of 100 hectares, right? So not a huge estate, but it's also broken out to a bunch of different places. I think there's 85 in Bergerac. They do have some property in on the right bank of Bordeaux, so that's a different thing. Sustainably farmed. Limestone, what do we got here? Oh, clay and limestone. Here's another thing that I love about it is it's fermented and aged stainless steel. For me, I think that really allows, on a rosé especially, the fruit just to sort of come out and the grapes to really sort of shine how they should. All right? I'm not sure if there's too much more, and because it's a long story, I'm just going to jump in the glass, right? So, beautiful, palish, salmon-y type of color. Nose, some richness there. I get peaches, definitely red fruit, berries. Really clean. First thing I noticed before even any of the flavors, there's a bit of a density to it. There's a silkiness to it. I wouldn't say it's a heaviness, but maybe just there's some richness there, which is nice. This is not a super light, lithy, pithy, in the breeze type of rosé. This one's a little bit more serious, which makes sense. Think about the two grapes it's made from, right, in the area it's coming from. Cabernet, Merlot, a little bigger. This is just a little bit more serious of a rosé, and that equates to being able to pair it a little differently, and we'll get to that in a second. Flavors pretty much follow the aromas. but I get red berry definitely, but I get like almost like an orange skin, almost like that little bit of, I don't want to say the word bitter, but a little bit of that pithiness, bitterness, which I think makes it, even that counterbalance to that red berry, makes it really refreshing, right? Especially on a sort of warm night like tonight. Food pairings. Warm nights like this, by itself, cocktails, but I would say I would go more food-based ideas than just hanging out with friends on a deck. That's just me. Even if it's some really good heavy apps. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know why I'm thinking nachos. Maybe I'm hungry. Nachos. But anyway. Salmon, definitely. Check. Burgers, like on a nice Tuesday night, making some burgers with friends. Check. Even stand up to some steaks. Check. And cold 850 day old wood-fired pizza. I guess I should check on that real quick, but I'm only going to do a bite because then I have to get to the second half of the story. I grew up eating cold pizza for breakfast, following in my father's footsteps. So I adore cold pizza leftover. And it works. Go figure. Alright, so if all you want to know about is the wine, it's delicious, it's a great price point, then I guess you can stop watching. But wait, there's good parts of the story. So, if you know me, or watched any of this type of thing before, you might have heard me mention that I'm a big fan of riding a bike. Love riding bikes. Another thing I'm a big fan of is figuring out ways to raise money for really good causes, right? And obviously, I love wine, right? And whenever possible, I try to like mush them all together, right? So, over a year ago, I decided through a friend of mine who introduced me to this ride, the PMC, the Pan Mass Challenge, that this year was going to be the year I did the Pan Mass Challenge. So for you who not know, Pan Mass Challenge is a bike ride from kind of the middle of Massachusetts all the way up the Cape and to Provincetown, and it's a 2-day thing, and it's a little over 200 miles, and they have I think there's like 6,000 riders that do it, and they raise gobbles and gobbles of money for Dana-Farber cancer research, which obviously checks the box for really, really important cause to support. So my friend's like, you should really do it. It's an experience, and you love riding bikes, so you should do it. So I'm like, whoop, I'm on board. I sign up. I got hooked up with an awesome group of people based kind of in Fairfield County, Westportish area. Team Veluminati, group of wonderful people. And they've been doing it for a long time, and they've been really, really good to bring me on board on the team, and also to give really good guidance for new people like myself, what to expect, how to fundraise, this, that, the other thing. So I am signed up, I'm on the team, I'm starting my fundraising, it's on my calendar, I'm stoked. And then, oh wait, before the pandemic, right? So now I got the bike riding thing in, I got the good cause thing in, how do I work the wine in? So I go to a buddy of mine who's the French wine portfolio for Michael Skurnick, and I'm like, Hank, I'm looking to do this project. I'd love to find a French producer of a rosé wine, and I want to do a one-off. I want to do something just for us. I want to do X, and I want to figure out a way where we can all work together and keep the cost at a point where the sale of the wine can generate some money for the cause. Right? That's my whole mindset. So we happened to be in New York City at the time, pre-pandemic, at a tasting. He's like, I got someone you need to meet. brings me over, introduces myself and Cody. You'll see a picture of Cody with Maureen in a second, to Maureen Dubard. She and I start chatting. I pitch her the idea, and ironically, she's a runner. She totally gets the whole thing. We start chatting about running and biking and this and that and the other thing. She loves the idea. She gets behind the idea, and that was sort of the birth of this, right? So she was super gracious and figured out a way at a certain case amount to get it at a good price. Skurnik was super gracious and, basically didn't take their full cut, as far as getting it from point A to B and then selling it, because they knew it was for a good cause. And obviously we're throwing in a big chunk, the lion's share, one might say, of the profits of this wine for the charity. So that's how we're able to get a phenomenal wine at the price that it's supposed to be at, but still we're able to generate some donation money, which was the whole point. Granted, I had to buy a lot of it, but hey, that's fine. I'm okay with that. So everything's going pretty well, and pandemic hits, right? So everything starts blurring. My life gets crazy. Stores close. We do this, we do that. Curbside, I'm losing sight of things, but I'm still got this in the corner of my eye, and we're still talking about it. And I check off the full commit. Now, pour Laulerie. So when you sign up for the Panamax Challenge, you create a donation page, and it's kind of about why are you doing this, right? And I don't think there's anyone out there that hasn't had cancer creep into their lives one way or another. Whether you've had cancer and survived, whether you've lost a loved one to it, whether you've known someone that's had it and survived. It touches all of us. So the concept of why. So pour Laulerie, I'm lousy with French, basically roughly translates for the love of, right? So for me personally, it's for the love of cycling. It's for the love of wine. It's for the love of helping. And specifically, this particular ride was going to be dedicated to my mother-in-law, who unfortunately passed away before she got to meet either of our girls. And she would have been an awesome grandmother to both of them. And it's a real shame that she had to leave so early. She would have loved the girls, and the girls would have loved her. So that's sort of the backstory of the name, Fly on the Head. And I'll go one step further. So hopefully, and you'll see the label when I do the label rotation shot later. I wanted a simple label. I like the heart concept. I like the idea of having for the love of in French, because it's from France. So I'm like, hey, Alex being my 16-year-old daughter, so you want to design a wine label for me? And basically through a couple different discussions, she said yes. She came up with a couple different renditions, and actually this is the one that we landed on. So this is another tie-in. The label was designed by my daughter, Alexandra, and I'm super proud of her for drawing it, and it just sort of ties the whole thing together. So where are we in the story? And I told you this was going to be long, I'm sorry. Now we're pandemic. My world's spinning out of control. I still sign off on the wine. I believe that the Panamax Challenge is going to carry on. This is early pandemic. I'm thinking, man, it's so late. It's got to go on. No, canceled. Sorry, not happening. So now it's all about sort of virtual or do-it-yourself type of things, and they're doing their thing, and I know Team Velminati is doing their thing, but unfortunately, a lot of my life is time-based in what weekends or weekdays I can and can't do. So my friend Tizzy and I, because it originally was going to be Tom Tizzy's husband, Tizzy and I doing the Pan Mass together, and I was going to hang with the Velminati people, but they go much faster than I am, and I was going to ride this lovely bike, which weighs like 50 pounds and has a Yeti cooler strapped to it. So I'm not really a go fast. I'm like a go slow and camp type of person right now. So came up the idea and the concept that Tiz and I are going to take 200+ mile rides back to back, just like the Pan Mass Challenge would be. Base it out of Richfield. I think one route's going to go north one day and one route's going to go south. So we're going to do it. We're going to do the mileage. We're going to do the distance. We're going to probably do more elevation than we normally would do. So we're still doing it, and I'm still fundraising as best as possible. And we're selling this wine. And where am I ending this story? I guess I'm ending it this way. If you could, and I know it's challenging times, see it in your heart. There's a couple different ways. One, just buy the wine. Disregard anything else I've said, because at the price that we're offering it at, it's still a fantastic bottle of wine, and you need not concern yourself with any other aspect of my life. Two, buy the wine, love the wine, make it maybe your house rosé for part of the summer, maybe all of the summer, and feel good that by purchasing it, you're helping create donation money to Dana-Farber, which is a great organization, and Pan Mass Challenge, which, like I said, usually raises a huge chunk of money. We're talking $600 million type chunk of money, and don't quote me on that. I think it's true though. And it's going to be a challenge for them to do it this year, right? So here Dana-Farber is thinking like, ooh, maybe counting on it, and that might not happen. So you could feel good about drinking this rosé, knowing that it was going to help that cause. You can go a step further. You could actually go to my donation page and donate to my particular donation page, right? Which all goes there as well. So you could drink the rosé and donate, or you could just donate, or you could just drink the rosé and not care about anything else. But I don't think you're going to do that. Anyway, I think that's it. I think I covered it all. What did I forget? I love riding bikes. I like raising money for good charity causes. I love wine. I love beautiful nights. I love cold pizza. I'm going to finish that slice in a second. This rosé is... Let me just go back to it just to make sure that it's... Yep. Still wonderfully delicious. So, thank you for listening to my long story. I hope you help. But if you don't, that's okay. No hard feelings. It's all good. It's just an ask. It's all good. Stay safe, healthy. Enjoy this beautiful weather. And see you next time. Cheers.